Welcome back, Serie A fans. Bentornati to the Total Football Analysis Serie A podcast. I'm your host, Daniele Proch, and with me today on the show is Chris Mumford, the EPL podcast host, and the open critique of Gianluigi Donnarumma. Donnarumma, or Gigio, as Milan fans call him, has conceded 0 goals in the first 3 Serie A games. I'm curious to hear your thoughts about it, Chris.
Hey, 21-year-old taking care of business. We'll see when he starts playing some competition. He's going to have a lot of work this upcoming Saturday.
He's old enough to go out and celebrate after a win. Well, let's begin our conversation by looking at the table and see which of the top 7 clubs from last season could be contenders in this year's scudetto race. And since we've mentioned Donnarumma, let's begin with Milan. Milan finished their transfer window with a positive 35 million transfer record. They extended the contract of Zlatan Ibrahimovic until June 2021. What do you think about it, Chris?
I think it makes a lot of sense. I think they are going to continue to get better and better. You're starting to see a consistent style of play. You're starting to see pickups or renewals to support that style of play. It's nice to see that things aren't nuts or chaotic over there. So, I think that their rivals need to pay attention, given they do have a legit goalkeeper in the back, a little overrated still, but very legit. And they've got a striker which just soaks up a lot of pressure, both in terms of media as well as in defenders' attention.
Yeah, and Milan was able to also secure Ante Rebic, Alexis Salzmaker, and Simon Kjær after the great performances from last year. Mm-hmm. And they bought the young midfielder Sandro Tonali from Brescia, stealing it at the end from Inter. And then we have a couple of players who have a lot of expectations around them because of their quality. Talking about midfielder Brahim Diaz and fullback Diogo Dalot. We'll see how they're going to do. Chris, Milan began the season with 3 wins out of 3 games, conceding 0 goals. I wonder, do you think that Stefano Pioli's side is going to be strong enough to contend, to partake in the Scudetto race, or will they settle for a top 4 finish?
I think it's too early to tell, to be honest with you. I mean, the competition they've played in the first 3 matches are not one that you'd want to go ahead and attach some benchmarks to. I think clearly they're in the conversation for being in the top 3 or 4, maybe. I don't know if they have the firepower for 1 or 2, but hey, a lot of it's going to come down to injuries, how healthy Ibra is going to be able to stay, and if defenses are really going to start to figure him out as maybe he starts to lose a step. Time will tell.
Yeah, they're definitely in great form because, since Serie A restarted in June, they have gone 15 games without losing.
Yeah.
That said, I do think that they will try to settle for a top 4 placement, which, will give them access to next year Champions League, which they have been missing out on since 2013-14, which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think the truth is they've got Inter coming up. They've got Roma the following week. And then they've got a whole host of Europa League matches, Celtic, Sparta Prague, and Lille. So I think we're going to know in the next 4 weeks how legit this squad is and can they still stay healthy, which is going to be a key theme for Serie A, I feel like, because the truth is most squads did not reload. They committed to resources that they had. They tried to break even. And I'm really happy to see AC Milan having some stability.
Yeah, Chris, this morning when I woke up, the news of the day was Cristiano Ronaldo testing positive for COVID. Mm-hmm. And so I guess that Zlatan Ibrahimovic was not able to stop the spread of the virus after catching it. So why don't we look at what Juventus did in this transfer window? They finished with a negative record of minus 13 million euros. And really in the last day, they were able to secure Italian winger Federico Chiesa from Fiorentina. How do you think he will do? on that flank?
I think that he should fit in nicely. I mean, it kind of makes sense that they picked him up. I will tell you, I just am really struck that big spenders Juve overall took a very low profile this transfer window. I think that the next 2 weeks are going to be fascinating. They're going to have some work ahead of them, in that they're going to have Barcelona on the 28th of the month. And at that point, will Ronaldo be back for that match or not? They've got Dynamo Kiev beforehand. So I don't think they have a lot of competition with respect to the Serie A opponents, Crotone, Verona, possibly, Spezia. I think those are going to be some lighter elements, but keep in mind, they're going to be playing 2 matches a week. And they're going to, I think the squads, they may or may not be fit, right? They're just starting to kind of get in place. I really wonder, this whole international travel bit, sending folks to all over the world, guess what's going to happen? And I wonder what you think the impacts and what the news is of how COVID is rising in Italy, and what is the threat, Daniele, of potentially Serie A having to shut down for a while?
So there is definitely a big scare of COVID going back to the high levels of this past spring. We saw it a couple of weeks ago when Napoli was not able to travel to Turin. The game was apparently forfeited by Napoli. They appealed. We're going to wait for a final decision to see whether Juventus will get the 3 points. But it's tough. Lega Serie A has tried to, delineate the protocols so that the matches can unfold according to schedule. So they're trying not to stop the calendar, because if that happens, what's going to happen to Euro 2021? You cannot push back too many games, because there is Euro 2021 has been already rescheduled. So it is a challenge, and I guess players are going to have to stay even more diligent in their approach to social life and safety protocols. And I would say, sorry.
How about in terms of coaching? Do you think that Pirlo has made the right number of moves, and given the only 2 or 3 matches, how do you feel he's doing?
Well, for sure, he changed the way Juventus play and think about playing. Ronaldo had great words of admiration for Pirlo. Mm-hmm. He seems to prefer a 3-man in the back formation, 3-4-1-2, 3-4-2-1, with the front guys being obviously Ronaldo, Dybala when he's back, and then one between Kulusevski or Morata. Chiesa will fit well, I think, on the right flank, because he already played in a 3-man system at Fiorentina. So he's a guy that does not have problems with contributing with defensive runs when the team needs them. And
how about Morata? Do you think Morata is going to be a strong bench contributor, or is this going to be the system that's going to work for him?
Again, he knows the system as well, because he played with, maybe not the same ideas, but the system under Conte when he was here, when he was at Juventus a few years ago. Mm-hmm. They played with 2 strikers. It was him and Carlos Tevez. Mm-hmm. So his strength is that he's very versatile. So he can adjust to what's asked of him. He's played with Ronaldo at Real Madrid. He's not gonna be the guy that causes a lot of problems in the locker room because of his playing time. He's gonna be ready when Pirlo lines him up, and he's gonna be okay with just being subbed off, throughout the game. I will say one last thing about the transfer window. Juventus manager Andrea Agnelli, he's looked recently. He looked very worried about the finances of Juventus and Serie A. Juventus have by far the highest average of players' wages, and that's why when they signed Chiesa, they had to make sure that they loaned out Douglas Costa to Bayern Munich, Daniele Rugani to Rennes, and Matteo De Sciglio to Olympique Lyon. Because really they had to take this burden, this weight away from them. At least now they're not paying their wage for a year, saving about 10 million euros combined.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I am going to be paying a little closer attention with signing of Weston McKinney. Do you think he's going to get real minutes and could emerge this year as a legit star, or is he going to need another year or two of maturation?
Well, Pirlo is not afraid of playing young players because he's shown that in the first two games, McKinney, Farabota, all these new guys have gotten significant minutes. He definitely provides runs and commitment and muscles in the middle of the field, as well as, so far from what I've seen, a decent passing range. When Bentancur, when Arthur Melo are going to be back, I'm not sure whether McKinney will continue to be a starter, but it's his first year in a top European club. He's just going to try to stay patient, and I think it will work out for him.
How about some of the folks returning back from loan, like Khan or Stapa or Kusavelski, Romero? Are any of these folks going to feature? Pellegrini? Do you think they're going to feature much in matches? Because I see 7 players that they've brought back by not loaning them out.
Yeah, well, some of them have been loaned out again, like Luca Pellegrini, the fullback. He is currently in force with Genoa. But to your question, Dejan Kulusevski will play the biggest role of those you have mentioned. He was the best young player of last year, scoring 10 goals and recording 9 assists while on loan at Parma. So I'll have my money on him, and I think he's going to start most of the games. And he's got a quality left foot. He can dribble. He's physically structured. Since we mentioned Parma, what's going on at Parma, Chris? They've been spending like crazy this transfer window.
It's called having a sugar daddy, an American sugar daddy, the Krause family out of the Midwest, who are basically convenience store kings. I guess they had some success in their USL League 2, the Des Moines Menace, shout out to them. But I guess they decided to trade up to Parma, which to me is a heck of a trade. I wish I had a father who had $5.6 billion. So
Parma recorded the highest transfer record in terms of negative balance with minus 76 million euros.
Yeah. What do you see interesting out of those pickups, Daniele?
Well, they bought out Roberto Inglese, who had featured with them for the past couple of seasons, and is going to be their number 9 if he stays fit. He's had some problems with injuries. Besides that, it's really a new looking team with Fabio Liverani as the coach, and let's see if Gervinho will be able to make a difference again in Serie A. That guy seems to never stop making a difference with his pace. So it's an open question mark, and we're gonna have to see.
It's going to be a box of chocolate season for them. You just don't know what you're going to have. Fulham tried that strategy a couple of years ago, and it failed miserably. But who's to say that with a little bit of time, the manager can't get these guys working together and move up to kind of a mid-table. Could they threat potentially at some Europa slots? Probably a little too early for that, but maybe they're setting up a project to kind of get them there in 2 to 3 years. So
yeah, Europa could be a stretch. I agree. So it will take a little longer for players to click, for the managers to figure out what is the potential of the club. Chris, a team that keeps impressing is Atalanta. They're currently first in the league, 3 out of 3, 13 goals in 3 games. That means an average of 4.3 goals per game. Currently on top of the league. Their transfer window was interesting. They bought on a permanent transfer Mario Pazzalitch, who already has 2 goals in this. 1 goal and 1 assist in this Serie A season. And there is excitement for this guy, Russian attacking midfielder Alexei Miranchuk. He's currently injured, but he could do very well. Do you think that Atalanta is part of the scudetto conversation?
Unfortunately, no. As much as I love talking about them and personally a fan of their style of play, they bought more attacking talent, and what they needed more defending talent. And I just think that Christian Romero, 2.2 million euro loan fee, that's not going to get it done. Or even Fabio De Pauli as a right back. I think they needed to maybe spend that 16 million checks on some defensive players. But what's your take on it? Do you think they're just going to go with Houston Rockets will just score more?
Chris, I'm just on the Lega Serie A page for goals and assists, and I just see Atalanta players. Alejandro Gomez is currently leading with 4 goals. And Atalanta really can send almost all of their players to goal. We have their wingbacks, Robert Gosens and Ansat Tabor, who basically do something similar that we see at Liverpool with Alexander Arnold and Henderson and Robertson. They serve each other, they assist each other, and then the back post run is just very hard for the opponent to mark. And Atalanta just creates so much offensively. It's a pleasure to watch. And my answer is yes, Chris. They will be part of this year's Scudetto conversation. Just remember that last year they were 4 points shy of first place. So I don't see why you're writing them off.
Well, we'll find out with Napoli coming up on Saturday. That'll be a real test for them. They're going to have a run of Champions League matches. Get this. They've got Liverpool on November 3rd, and then they've got them again on November 25th. They don't really have a lot of competition in terms of Serie A until November 8th. But it's a lot of matches. You have to play Ajax and Liverpool back-to-back weekends. That feels hard to me, but hey, they are a selling club. They've made great money in the transfer markets. Mm-hmm. They keep buying younger, just on the cusp strikers or attacking midfielders, and they sell them for a pretty penny. So I like the fact that they're really specific in their style of play, and I like the fact that they commercially, what they stand for.
And also specific in their recruitment process. They're very, very specific in buying players according to what the coach, Giampiero Gasperini, wants their players to feature in the system. Keep an eye on Sam Lammers. He's a young Dutch striker who scored an unbelievable goal against Cagliari 2 weeks ago with a passo doble. He was able to kind of take the ball across his body with the bottom of his foot and then finished with the right. So keep an eye on that guy. It is a big name. Could be a big name for Fantacalcio, Italian Fantasy Football League. Since you mentioned Napoli, let's take a look at what they did in this transfer window. They finished with a positive 41 million euros transfer record, despite making the largest investment in their transfer history, spending 70 million to buy 21-year-old center forward Victor Osimhen from Lille. He could be their guy, their number 9 they were looking for. What do you think about it?
It's hard to say, and I'm going to be honest with you. Their next month's worth of matches, of which there are going to be a lot, the names that jump out to me are Real Sociedad in the Europa League. And then, they don't, after playing Atalanta, they don't play one of the big 4 to 6 until November 22nd with AC Milan, and then Roma the week afterwards. So I think we're going to need a little bit more runway to figure out if Napoli is the real deal. I've heard from really smart folks that think that they could be a dark horse for winning the league. I'm not sure that I'm on that bandwagon. What's your take on that?
I think they are. Listen, 2 wins in 2 games, 8 goal scores, 0 conceded. And what I like about Victor Osimhen is a forward that is mobile, but at the same time, he's got big presence. He's physically structured. And what I like about him is that now Gattuso, manager Gennaro Gattuso, has tried his formation into a 4-2-3-1, featuring Insigne on the left, Dries Mertens as a trequartista, and then on the right, either Irving Lozano or Matteo Politano. But usually we saw Mertens alternating with Napoli's number 9, which usually was Milik. I like that they're all playing together, because the 2 quick guys like Insigne and Mertens, with their combinations, if they can play off of Osimhen, they're gonna make money. They're gonna score a lot of goals. Maybe they're on track with challenging Atalanta's in terms of how many goals they can score. And I also like the philosophy of Gennaro Gattuso, playing out of the back, pressing and keeping possession, because they finished last season with the highest average of ball possession with 58.5%.
Well, before I buy a ticket for that train, I want to watch them play somebody besides Parma and Genoa and score 8 goals.
They were supposed to play Juventus, but apparently they were held back. And I really wish that game will be played again. I don't want that to be canceled, Chris.
I agree with you. It's nice to see those guys go head to head, and could be a absolute critical 3 points in the scudetto.
Yeah, it could be very important down the line. Let's look at a team that has been very aggressive in this transfer window. We're talking about Inter. How many players did they get? Their midfield line looks just threatening, and they are the biggest contenders for the title. They secured Nicola Barella and Stefano Sensi after their loan from last year from Cagliari and Sassuolo. They signed Arturo Vidal on a free transfer from Barcelona, and they got Ivan Perisic back after a year in which he won the Champions League with Bayern Munich. And then, Chris, you have Marcelo Brozovic, Christian Eriksen, Roberto Gagliardini. That midfield has really no rivals, I believe, in terms of the depth in the league.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm really hoping that Eriksen has got a little more time in Milan, and Alexis Sanchez as well, because if those guys come back to even 80% of what they were, or even 70%, I just think they're going to be really solid contributors to a very dangerous club offensively. And I like what they've done defensively last year as well. I just feel like there are a lot of pieces in place for them to be successful. I think as far as what their playing schedule is going forward, they're going to have some work as we've talked about on Saturday against AC Milan. But, they're going to be playing Genoa, Parma. They're going to play Atalanta on November 8th. That's going to really be right in the middle of Real Madrid on November 3rd. And then Real Madrid again on 11/25. So November is going to be a really important month for them. I do think that it's really unfortunate that the Lazio Inter game, which started out with an absolutely brilliant, exciting first half, got blown up by some dark arts where you had a couple players sent off, and it just became a really ugly, unattractive game afterwards. And I'm disappointed when the dark arts ruin a perfectly fine match that was going on. So we shall see. They're going to get a little test on Saturday, and then they've got some Champions League stuff to kind of warm up for Real Madrid. And then November, put your seatbelt, and we'll see where they stand, both in Champions and Scudetto.
And the most expensive transfer for Inter was fullback or right wing back Achraf Hakimi, highly wanted by Coach Conte, because Conte loves his wing backs to going up and down the entire 90 minutes with the pace and intensity. And then on top, you have obviously Romelu Lukaku, Lautaro Martinez, and Alexis Sanchez, who came on a free transfer from Man U. So Inter have bought a lot of players, but they have been smart in either getting back loans or securing free transfers from big time teams. So Conte, I'm just gonna say one last thing. Conte was about to leave the club after they lost the UEFA Europa League finals against Sevilla.
Yeah.
And apparently he said, I'm going to stay one more year, but I want to win the scudetto this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think the real trick is that, they had the fewest goals allowed last year at 36, and then they brought in some serious talent at the on the defensive side, and that to me shows Hakimi demonstrates that. Look, they've got nice offense. They had 81 goals, not nearly as much as Atalanta, but certainly 5 more than Juve. So to me, that sort of team construction and intentionality works. Though I love Atalanta, they're not fixing the defensive end to be able to make a title race. Mm-hmm. So I'm really high on Inter this year.
Yeah, and let's finish our conversation about the top 7 clubs by venturing into the Italian capital, Rome. We have Lazio and Roma. Let's begin with Lazio. They finished 4th last year, but they haven't been too active in this past transfer window. They signed Vedat Muriqi, center forward from Fenerbahce, and he's expected to rotate on top as a technical partner of Ciro Immobile. There's also Felipe Caicedo and Joaquin Correa. He is currently injured, so we're going to have to wait to see him in action. But when the league restarted in June, Lazio dropped a lot of points, and they saw themselves really dropping from 2nd to 4th place because they were tired. They were visibly tired. Their roster wasn't as deep as the direct rivals, and I have not seen them putting a remedy, fixing this problem. And I think that because of that, they will not be considered contenders to the title. Chris?
So in my heart, they'll be number 1 always in their jersey design. So
a nice logo.
Beautiful logo, beautiful colors, very tastefully done. So they're number 1 of all the 5 leagues in my book. But as you said, in post-COVID, they lost their mojo. They scored 79 goals, which still puts them in 3rd place overall, but that's because of one winger in particular.
European Golden Shoe winner, Ciro Immobile.
That's exactly right. They had 42 goals against, which is the same as Juve. So the way I look at it is, they actually had a more positive goal differential at 37 than Juve. But I just feel like they're, as you said, they're a year older. They couldn't afford to make any trade ups. And I just feel like all the other teams are getting one step faster. And I hope I'm wrong, but in seeing the Inter Lazio game, they played really well in the beginning of the first half, and then Inter came on, and then second half was a disaster and couldn't evaluate anything. But yeah, I wouldn't rule them out, but I think they're serious contenders for Champions League going forward. But I'm inclined to agree with you. I just don't think they're going to be ready for the top spot anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm not worried about their performance from October through February. I'm going to be worried what's going to happen afterwards when, you're going to have legs getting tired, players having spent a lot of mental energies. And don't forget that they're in the Champions League. So they're going to have to play Wednesday, Sunday. It's not going to be easy without too deep of a roster. But, hey, maybe I'm wrong. Simone Inzaghi has everything figured out, and maybe he's got players ready to come in that we don't know about yet. He sees them in training. We don't. So let's see if Lazio will be able to keep up throughout the entire season. What about Roma, Chris? Roma, they have signed a couple of interesting players. Pedro came on a free transfer, as well as Henrik Mkhitaryan, both from EPL sides. And in really the last probably 30 seconds of the transfer window, they were able to sign Chris Smalling from Man United. But you know what? I think that the biggest signing, even if it's technically not a signing, was keeping Edin Dzeko as a number 9. He was linked to Juventus for the entire summer because Pirlo said he wanted Dzeko as their center forward. Eventually stayed in the capital. How do you see the Giallorossi doing?
You know, to me, offensively, that's not where the problems are. It's defensively, and you know, I know they picked up Mancini from Atalanta, yeah, and they picked up Veretout from Florentina.
Yep.
So you know, they're making some moves there, and then Kimbula from LS Verona. They're making moves there, but when you look at where they came undone last year, they gave up 51 goals, which puts them about 8th or 9th in the league. They scored a very comfortable 77 goals, which is the same as Juve. So I'm not worried about the offensive piece. Will they have the pieces in place? I don't know if Chris Smalling, I think it was a great signing, but I wonder if these new guys, do you think these new guys can step in and really put a dent into those goals scored on them last year?
Listen, I like Marash Kumbula from on loan from Hellas Verona. Last year, he did very well in under Juric, and he's used to playing in a 3-man defensive line. Mm-hmm. And I think that as long as he clicks with his defensive partners, he can be a great addition. Obviously, you're gonna have a midfield that covers. And that's where most of the problems can be solved if the team can defend in a compact way, because Roma many times have looked too stretched last year and maybe conceding counterattack goals. But what I think about Roma is that they're not gonna be able to keep up with their rivals in the scudetto race, and what they're gonna aim for, in my humble opinion, is a top 4 placement.
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you, I do think that Mkhitaryan and Pedro are really great options in the midfield, right? I don't know how much time they're going to get as they age up, what's going to happen in terms of injuries. But, I think Roma is a very savvy team when it comes to recruitment. They're owned by some Americans, one of the 4 clubs in Serie A that are. So they're clearly very switched on. I wonder if they have the firepower. They have the experience. Do they have the firepower? Time will tell.
A statistic you probably don't know is that the more you age up as a player in Serie A, the more likely you are to score goals. So don't worry about Pedro being 33 plus years old. If he's in Serie A, he's going to be successful according to a statistic that I just made up.
I got to tell you, I see that trend, and I think it's because recovery sciences have improved so much, right? I think it's not going to be uncommon for strikers to be able to play until 33 or 35 years old. And that just wasn't possible 15 years ago, but now it is. And Ronaldo, of course, is leading the revolution in that. And Ibra. Where he's not going to give you a full season's worth of games, but on the 3 quarters that he comes on for, defenses are constantly going to be looking over their shoulders. So I think that's a really interesting trend to look at. I'd be interested in hearing what other trends you think you see emerging out of Serie A.
Let me first add a couple names to this list of all players scoring. We have Rodrigo Palacio for Bologna, who's I think he's 38 now. Goran Pandev, 37. Fabio Quagliarella, I think he's about to turn 38. They already, all 3 of them have already scored in this Serie A season. So there must be something about the way, how savvy they are, how capable of reading the defenses are to score these goals, because obviously they're not scoring because they're athletically monstrous. They're scoring because they know where to position themselves and where to finish, how to finish, and all those tricky things. Other trends, I think it's early to say in Serie A. I would say that defensive lines have behaved better than what we have seen, for instance, in the Premier League. Besides the Atalanta games where you see waves of goals, in Italy, hopefully there will continue to be results that make sense in the world of football. But why don't we? I want to also look at what's happening at the bottom of the table. It's early to say, but we have a couple of teams that seems to struggle from the early stage of the season. The change of management in Cagliari and Torino seem to be a little slow of a process because Eusebio Di Francesco has tied one game and lost two, and Marco Giampaolo at Torino, they've lost both games so far. Udinese is the only team yet to score in this Serie A campaign. So Kevin Lasagna, Stefano Caca, Ilya Nestorowski, they're gonna have to step it up. Chris, Udinese just signed Gerard Deulofeu from EPL side Watford. He's a winger, speedy, with pace. Do you think he can help solve the problems of the Friulani on top?
You know, we're 3 games into it all. The fact that they've got a -4 goal differential, I don't know if that's going to be the silver bullet. You know, I think that it's going to be interesting to see how the bottom of the table. I want to give these guys a pass. I don't want to beat up on them yet because it's just like the first day of school. So let's not give them Fs quite yet. Yeah. But, you know, Parma, I will say Parma's at 16. They went out and spent 85 million and they lose 2 out of 3 games. That can, you want to talk about buyer's remorse. They might have wanted to stick with USL teams with that sort of start. So I don't know. I'm excited about it, but my take is let's let these guys breathe a little bit.
And welcome to Serie A, Crotone. 10 goals conceded, 0 points so far in Serie A in 3 games. So they knew it was gonna be a cutthroat world. So let's see if they can if they can pick up the pace and shift gears going forward. Chris, we have an unbelievable weekend of Serie A football after this international break. Mm-hmm. Please set your alarm at 8:30 on Saturday because at 9 a.m. we have Napoli hosting Atalanta at Stadio San Paolo. Like we said before, both teams average at least 4 goals per match. Napoli have yet to concede one. We're going to see probably a 4-3-3 from Gattuso because Lorenzo Insigne will be out a month due to injury. Mertens will slide to the left side and Osimhen will feature in the middle with Lozano probably wide on the right. As far as Atalanta, 3-4-1-2 with Talisman Papu Gomez leading Serie A in goals with 4 sitting behind probably Zapata and Luis Muriel. How many goals do you expect in this game?
Well, I certainly take the over-under of 2.5. I mean, my score line, I'm going to just cut to the chase. I see a 4-3 game happening here.
Ooh. I just talked about Italian defenses being better than those in the Premier League.
I don't see it at Atalanta, right? And you know, I think Napoli is not too far away from that whole story. So we shall see. I think this is going to be a high octane game. Look forward to it. You know, I'm following the Atalanta dream right now and seeing what they can do with it. What do you think are potential slip ups here or particular matchups that you're going to really pay attention to?
Well, both teams have always high intensity, high pace. If Napoli's wingers, in this case will be Mertens and Lozano, if they don't help out defensively, it could be a nightmare because Atalanta are very good at bringing numbers up, and many times you see more Atalanta attackers in a box than the opponent's defenders, and they've proven that they can do that for 90 minutes, and they also have subs that are worth starting, so they're going to be able to come in and keep the quality, the level up. So I think that Napoli will keep their identity of keeping possession and go with combinations, but there's going to be a lot of defensive effort required. At the same time, like you said, Atalanta defensively, they're not too composed. They tend to leave a couple of too many gaps here and there. And with the quality of Insigne, Lozano, and Osimhen, and with the passing range of midfielders, for instance, Fabian Ruiz, Napoli can as well score 3 goals on Atalanta. Chris, after that game, I'm going to make sure that you follow the schedule. Don't even think about getting up from the couch, because after Napoli-Atalanta, we'll have to fly to Milan for the Derby della Madonnina, as Inter takes on Milan in San Siro at lunchtime. I'm not sure if I should wear my AC Milan Pirlo jersey, because Pirlo is a little bit of a guy that is sided with the opponent right now. But what do you think about this game? Do you see, it's two teams in form. What do you see happening there?
I am hesitating because I see two really well-matched teams, and sometimes two really well-matched teams end up leading to an underwhelming match overall. I desperately hope that I'm wrong, but I see this potentially as a 1-1 or a 2-2 draw, with a lot of entertaining play in the middle third. So I hope I'm so wrong. I hope this ends up being like a 5-4 game, but I just feel like both teams have got solid defenses they're playing. So I would say maybe I'll take the over-under of 2.5 and think it's a 2-2 game.
According to Gazzetta dello Sport, we should have Inter lined up in a 3-4-1-2. The midfield should be Hakimi, Brozovic, Vidal, and Perisic, with Barella just sitting in front of them, and then the dynamic duo of Lukaku, Lautaro. Milan will not be able to count on Rebic. He came off with an injury in the game against Crotone. It was quite gruesome. His elbow was dislocated. So hopefully we'll be back soon for the Rossoneri.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised at the number of injuries that they're already facing. Is it Muscaccio ankle surgery?
Muscaccio, yeah. It should be a couple more weeks.
Yeah, Conte has got a knee injury. Roma Ganoli has got a disrupted calf muscle. You've got two that have coronavirus, Duarte and Gabbia. Do you see any of those losses having a significant impact other than Rebic?
Romagnoli has been a big loss for Milan, even though they have yet to concede a goal, right? But he's the captain in the back. He's gonna be back in the starting lineup when he's back, and maybe I heard he could be back this weekend against Inter, pairing up with Kier. And as far as Ante Rebic, obviously would not feature on that left side. We're gonna see in the 4-2-3-1, we're gonna see Sedesmacher, Çalhanoğlu, and Leao lined up behind Zlatan Ibrahimovic. How romantic is that Ibrahimovic is going to play again against his former team, Inter?
Yeah, well, it's at this point he's played for so many teams.
Yes,
Ranieri, it's like he's dated everybody in the bar at this point. So I'm really struck by Inter's got some issues with respect to the coronavirus, right? Skriniar, Bastoni, Young. I did not know this until recently. He's got it. So I'm a little worried that Inter may end up
fragile defensively.
Very much so. You've got two center backs and a left midfielder that are injured, and Young usually puts in a good shift defensively.
Yeah.
So, what's your take on it?
It looks like there will be D'Ambrosio, De Vrij, and Kolarov playing the back three, but obviously they're not, especially D'Ambrosio and Kolarov, they're not proper center backs. They have played their most of their career as fullbacks, so they're gonna have to adapt and be a little more composed and help out De Vrij. And they're gonna have to deal with Ibrahimovic, right? The big threat on top, and I expect Milan's winger, so Leao and Salesmakers, to keep wide in possession, because you're gonna want to do exactly that kind of job, pull out of the defensive line, D'Ambrosio and Kolarov, because then it creates a gap for the runs of midfielders, of strikers, of the trequartista, and that's space that you can exploit.
Mm-hmm. Well, it'll be interesting because we're 3 weeks into this, and the level of impact injuries, I would say, are at least 2 or 3 on each team. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how deep the squads are, and we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope that there's going to be some fireworks. I still think it's going to be a 2-2. What's your take on it?
A 2-2. I see this being a very close game. I would say that at least one team will not score. So it's going to be a 1-0 to either side. I'm not going to say more than that because I don't want to jinx it. After that game, after the San Siro game, it's going to be time for your post-lunch espresso, Chris, as you will enjoy Crotone-Juventus. It's not, on paper, it's not the best game for newly promoted side Crotone to collect points. But at the same time, Juventus will not be able to Cristiano out for COVID. Wow, it sounds weird. Out for COVID. Cristiano out for COVID. Do you think they're going to go for a tie? I think that's what I would do. Try to exploit this big loss, because Ronaldo is not just a goal scorer for Juventus. He's a leader.
Yeah, I'm not worried at all. I think this is a small Italian speed bump in a roundabout for Juve. They're going to just drive right over Crotone and get ready for Champions League.
So on top, I would expect to see Morata, taking filling the shoes of Ronaldo, and then probably Kulusevski, Chiesa, according to what I was reading in Gazzetta. It should be the two of them. So that's quite a replacement. And but you never know, if Crotone one penalty kick and then they sit back, it's gonna be a hard team to bridge, because all the teams that sit back, and especially in that field, which is not it's not too nice, is a little bumpy. Maybe Juventus will have problems with circulating the ball quickly. Maybe the Italian way, they can get away with points.
Yeah, I mean, Crotone has given up 10 goals in 3 matches against non-stellar teams. So I just too much too early for them right now. Juve is going to cruise on this, and I'm thinking 3-0 pretty easily.
Wow. I'm gonna go with a 2-1 for Juventus. I think it's gonna be harder than you think. The conditions of that pitch can make a difference, Chris. Okay. Well, enough with the talk. We're just gonna have to sit back and enjoy this weekend's game. Thank you, Chris, for your contribution. I'm very glad to be back talking about Italian calcio. We will see you guys next time. Arrivederci.